Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm working today on Sad Fairy. This is a Heaven and Earth design and I'm going to do a little bit more on her face. The last time I worked on Sad Fairy I was filling in some of the background and also working a little bit on her forehead here, and then I thought I would come back and stitch with you. I'm just about to get started, so if you're ready you can stay a while and stitch with me. I'm going to start here, I think, because I'm keen to see how the rest of this eye develops. And I haven't been parking the whole time, which you'll probably think is interesting because I am well known for doing quite a bit of parking. But there's been such huge blocks of colour that it wasn't even really necessary to do parking in some cases, so it was easy just to go on ahead and do the whole blocks of colour. So if you've got, say, 100 squares in a block that are blue, you don't need to park, you just do the whole lot. I was quite lucky, I think, on some of this background, but I know that this face does have a lot of confetti and I really should move this out of the way somehow so it doesn't interfere with the ones that I'm currently working on. Now these flosses don't really get tangled up together, but they can sort of wind around each other rather than get tangled. It's not quite the same thing. They don't get tangled together to the point that you can't pick them apart, but they do like to wind around each other. So it's interesting to see how many colours actually develop that you have to put together to get nice detail in the eye. And that's the reason for so many of these colours, is to get that eye pretty detailed, although it looks quite dark to me. The colours around her eye are quite brown. So when her whole face is done, then there's going to be a nice exciting part because there'll be her dress and her wings. So it's not like all the interesting sections are finished. There's still plenty to go. So how has everybody been doing this week? Did you get a lot of stitching done? I managed quite a bit on most of my works in progress, so that is a good thing. Sometimes you can be stitching for a good number of hours and then, you know, actually think that you're not getting anywhere. But if you take a photograph before you start and then take a photograph when you're finished, I think you'll find that you've made progress. Sometimes I do forget to take photographs, but I do like to sort of see some progress whenever I've done a stitching session. We've had non-stop rain this week and we've had a little bit of sun in between, but the last couple of days and today have just been constant rain, and it's made everything appear very dark because when you don't have a lot of bright light coming in, it does sort of lend a bit of a gloomy atmosphere. So you have to find things to do to brighten yourself up. And I think stitching really is one of them for me, because it really cheers me up when I'm feeling a bit down or like I'm not really able to go out and do very much. And working without a grid is not too difficult when it comes to... Why did I park that one? I needed to carry on. It's not too bad when you're working rows. There's not such a need for so much counting if you're not doing cross country, although it's still good to have some guide. For that reason, I've put in a few little blue dots every 10 squares, and it is a fabric pen, so it'll just wash off when I wash the piece. And you know, if you're not very confident with gridding, you can always just use one of those fabric pens, but do double check your counting. It can really throw you off. It can really mess everything up. So you have to kind of be consistent on where you're putting those grid lines. So far, so good here. Pleased with how this is going so far. No hiccups at the moment, which is good. We've got a very pinky pink as well in this eye. So the colours are all a really good contrast, bringing out a lot of detail there. Now I'm purposely leaving a couple of stitches undone because they would be better done on the next square, because they're part of a big block. So to do just one stitch at the edge doesn't really make all that much sense, because I have that colour already parked on the right, and I can just include a stray stitch on this side. So this is coming out pretty fast. Sometimes you get into a flow and it all works out really well. All comes together nicely, no hiccups, and that's when you're in your stitching element, I think. If there's such a thing as a stitching element, that is it. And you're kind of flowing along really nicely, and you know that you haven't made any mistakes. Well, not yet anyway. and I'm just marking them off very quickly on Pattern Keeper. Sometimes there's a bit of resistance going into the hole, just a tiny bit. That's actually worse when you've got a lot of confetti, because there's a lot of starting and ending at the back, and it gets kind of bulky at the back. It's difficult to get the needle through, but at the moment this is going really smoothly. So I'm on a roll. Let's see how long I can keep that up for. That tiny little knot in that thread, which I am actually going to cut. And the sun has come out again. The sun has been crazy today. I'm kind of playing hide and seek all day. I was asked a question about the Lowry stand and what I think of it, and I've kind of answered this question a number of times, but the main thing I find is that it's really useful, obviously, for supporting your piece and you not having to worry about holding it and stitching at the same time. But there is a little thing about it where it wobbles so much, and I think that's one little flaw that can be a little bit annoying. This thread has to start at this end. Let's go back again. Start here. That's it. So even though, you know, most of the time the wobble isn't really a problem, it doesn't really affect your stitching or anything. It's not a huge deal. But apart from that, I think the Lowry stand is a pretty good piece of equipment. If you want something that's not too big and bulky, that you can position next to your sofa, it works really well. Now I'm going to have to count to park this colour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So not too many different colours here, as you can see, otherwise we would be going much slower than this, trust me. And I'm quite surprised that there's so few colours in this section at the moment, because it is part of her face and it has been quite confetti around here. So this is actually a bit of a blessing. So we've nearly come to the end of our 10 rows. And I think this sort of pattern is really appreciated from a distance as well. When you look at something from a distance, you can appreciate the roundness of it more, the sort of like 3D appearance. The dimensions of it start to come alive when you look at it from a distance. Because when you look at it very close, you just see a bunch of pixelated colours. So looking from a distance, you get a much better appreciation. But don't forget, when you've something really small, like, I don't know, a tiny butterfly or something, that can get lost at a distance. So I feel like Speedy Gonzales at the moment. Getting a good pace here. So how much more of this pink do we actually have? We are on row 9 of 10. finish this colour down here. So she's looking good. She looks better than I do first thing in the morning, that's for sure. Now, where am I going to park? Well, there's one stitch there. I'm just going to do it. And park back on this side. 1, 2. That was easy. Parking below for the next time that I come round to do the stitches below. So again, I'll be doing a 10 by 10 block below that one, but the moment I'm working across. But I will be working also on the background to catch up with the rest of it. Because it would just be crazy not to, I think. It's all part of the same picture, and I do want to get a good bit of progress in every area, not just in these fabulous parts. Now there's stitching part below. And that's our 10 by 10 almost, minus the stitch on this side. I'm going to move those out again. Now this next square is pretty confetti, I think. I think we're going to have a ball on this side. Let's maybe do a couple of rows here, if we get a chance. Because these rows are really the ones that are going to make a difference. You do not want to mess these up, trust me. And I think some of these park threads are already a little bit dubious, but we'll see. What I do is I will check the thread. Again, actually, I think I was meant to be starting at this end, which is why I'm getting confused. So I was meant to start at this end. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the first colour. That thread and that thread. So these threads. And I'm going to steal my Needleminder, put it over this side. So I'm going to put my threads over on this side. And I should be starting at this end. It's raining again and the sun has gone again. That sun has been taunting me all day long. You see what a difference just a couple of stitches really makes. Okay, I think I'm going to use this needleminder here. Okay, now, so these colours have to be correct. If these colours are not correct, it will jeopardise the entire operation. And she will have to undergo this eye surgery once again. It's actually not that bad confetti wise. I thought it was going to be worse on this particular square. It's going to be really cool when you get to see her whole face. That's for sure. Oh, what's happened here? One space. Okay. Seems to be a parking issue. So the parking police are now investigating. Okay, I have rectified the parking issue and we're back on again. That's my little stitch from earlier. And I think this row is pretty much going to complete most of the eyeball. So I've tried to be just a little bit more careful around this part than I was before, because every stitch here counts. So this is when it's so convenient to have all the threads already in there, because you're just picking each one up as you go along and working your piece sort of in succession. 2 more stitches on that row. And voila! This one gets parked up here, if I can get it in. That one gets parked up there. So I'm going to move it out of the way. And what stitch is this one? That's not 801, is it? I think that stitch was supposed to go. Yeah. No, that is parked right, so I need to find this stitch now, which is 801. So her eye is more or less done. I'm going to do a stitch in my next section. Because there's only 2 stitches here. So I'm just going to finish this little row here. It's not too much trouble to do these few stitches. It looks quite dark to me, but probably from a distance it looks fine. Things do generally tend to work themselves out. What did I do there? I think I went down a second hole there. Yes, I did. Be careful you don't go through 2 holes instead of 1. And this gets parked here. And slowly but surely her face is coming together. And in less than an hour I have done a nice little section. That wasn't, oops. It's always the last stitch. Always the last stitch that has to mess up, isn't it? Okay, so there we go. And that one is parked. I think it's here. And there we go. There is our lovely fairy's eye completed there, more or less. So thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon on my next stitching session. So have a lovely weekend.